Hey guys, finishing up laws of exponents here. This is student activity sheet 3, exploring algebraic expressions. So this first question says to simplify the expression y to the second times y to the fourth. Well, let's use what we know based off of student activity sheet 2. What I know is that y squared is like saying y times y, and y to the fourth is y times y times y times y. Okay, well, we just did this. The only difference was that my y was a number. How many y's are being multiplied to each other here? Add them up, and we get y to the sixth. Okay, so now this time we're going to simplify this by expanding the terms. Do the division law and the power law. Do the division law and the power laws appear to hold for algebraic expressions? Okay. So first thing I'm going to do here, guys, is I expanded this out, okay? And what I have here, those cancel. I'm left with x to the third on top, and I'm going to raise that to the third power, okay? As a reminder, x to the third means x to the third times x to the third times x to the third. Count them up, 3, 6, 9, total x to the ninth. So to answer the question, do the rules appear to hold true? Yes, the division and power rule hold true. You can divide out common factors by simplifying first. Okay, so let's just go through and do this. First thing here, guys, you've got to take that 3 and distribute to every exponent. Remember that 4 has an exponent of 1, so I get 4 to the third. And if it helps, you can say 1 times 3 to show it. 3 times 3 and 4 times 3. Well, 4 to the third, and they may just want you to write 4 to the third like that. X to the ninth, y to the 12th. Okay, we are past the point, guys, of writing it like 4 to the third like this. Now it's time to actually go ahead and use this type of answer. Okay, and then part B here. Again, that 2 has a power of 1. So I'm going to take that 4 and distribute. So 1 times 4 is 4. 4 times 4 is 16. 2 times 4 is 8. 2 to the fourth power, guys, plug that into your calculator. You get 16, r squared, t8. Okay. Reinforce questions to do in class. I'm sorry, that was from the last activity sheet. Okay, so number 4, determine which expressions are equivalent to 1 squared and which are equivalent to 1 over x squared. Okay, so with this, guys, remember, negative exponents means that we move it to the denominator, make it positive. So that is equivalent to 1 over x squared. Okay. This second problem, okay, if you remember, we distribute. Okay, we distribute. So this would say x to the negative 6th over x to the negative 4th. Okay. Another way you could have done this, guys, is we could have said, where are my x's bigger? They are bigger in the bottom by 1. Now we can distribute that, okay? And that would be the same as saying, where are they bigger? They are bigger on the bottom, okay? So now I'm going to end up with, when I distribute that, I get 1 over x to the negative 2. I don't like that as an answer because it's negative, so we move it to the top, make it positive. Here, go ahead and add them up. 5 plus negative 3, or 5 minus 3, gives me x squared. Something else you could have done on this, you could have said x to the 5th, move that negative to the bottom, make it positive. Okay, where are my x's bigger? They are bigger on top by 2. Okay, on this problem here, where are my x's bigger? They are bigger on the bottom by how many? 2. Left with a 1 on top. Here, move my negatives to the top, make it positive, get rid of it on the bottom. So how many x's do I have on top? 2. On this problem, negative, so move it to the bottom, make it positive, get rid of it on top. I have an x squared in the denominator. Here, move it to the top, make it positive, get rid of it on the bottom, and I'm left with just x squared. On this one, again, we can simplify. Where are my x's bigger? They are bigger on the bottom by 1. I am distributing a positive to it, and I'm left with 1 over x squared. Okay. Simplifying this problem. Okay, the first thing I would do, guys, is move your negatives to the other side. We all know positives are much easier to work with. So I'm going to move that y to the -8 to the bottom, make it positive, get rid of it on top. I'm just going to clean up what I have here. I have 15x to the 5th on top. On the bottom, I have 3. I have an x squared. And then I have 3 and 8 y's to make a total of y to the 11th. Okay, now clean up top to bottom here. 5 divided by 3 can be simplified. Okay, 5 divided by 3 is a 5 on top. Where are my x's bigger? They are bigger on top by 3. And I'm left with y to the 11th on the bottom. So on this problem, first thing I'm going to do here, guys, with this, I have a negative. I don't want a negative. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move it to the top, and I'm going to make it positive, and I'm going to cross it off on the bottom. Let's just clean up what I have here. On top, I have 4y to the 4th, z to the 1 plus 5, so z to the 6th. In the denominator, okay, again, we cross that off. I'm left with 26y to the 10th. Let's go ahead and simplify this. 4 and 26, that can reduce. I'm going to pick a number that goes into both, which is 2. So divide that by 2, divide that by 2, and I'm left with 2 over 13. My y's, they are bigger on the bottom by 6, and all of my z's are on top. Okay? You'll go ahead and do those reinforced problems with your teacher. Okay, and let's look at number 8 for me. Look at number 8. So on these problems, we just filled it in. I know that negative and negative, okay, I'm going to add those to get x to the -8. Well, we can't have that, so we have to put it on the bottom, make it positive. Over here, first thing I'm going to do, put that y on the bottom, make it positive, cross it off the top. Now, where are my x's bigger? On top by 2. How many y's are on the bottom? 3. This problem here, anything raised to the 0 power equals the whole number 1. Okay. Now on this problem, we had to work backwards a little bit. Okay. I know that all of my x's, let's forget about the y's. Let's just look at the x's real quick. I know that this x does something to this x. It stays on top, and I have a total of 8. So 8 minus 1 gives me 7. Looking at my y's, well, there's 6 left on the bottom, and I started with 10 on the bottom. That tells me that I had to have an additional 4 on top to cancel. Looking at this, I know that this has to move to the bottom, and 4 times what is 25? Okay, here, I'm going to go ahead and simplify this out. Okay, I know that this is going to flip-flop to make y to the 7th over x to the 5. Well, that's exactly what I have here. So the only way to not change this is that this is just multiplied by 1. So to do that, I make it raised to the 0 power. And on this problem, again, we're working backwards. I know that my x's have to end up on the bottom and that there's 4 of them. I'm starting with 8, which means I have to have more x's down here, and they have to be bigger than that by 4. So that would mean I'd have x to the 12th. Well, the only way to get x to the 12th on the bottom is to have that -2 multiplied to a 6. Okay, same idea with my y's. I end up with 15 on top, and I took away 3 from that. So it means this has to equal a positive 18. So I put in a -9. And then lastly, looking at each of these, they want to know which ones are done correctly, which ones are done incorrect. Okay, they're the same problems. If you go through this, you just got to tell me why. I went through and I found this one is correct. So here I had to figure out why this one would be incorrect. And that's because the original exponents needed to be multiplied. Okay, they added them. They said 11 plus -3 or 11 minus 3. And here they said -7 minus 3. Okay, this should have been multiplied. On C, when I look at these ones, okay, I just did this first one and I saw that it was incorrect right away. Why? Because the exponents needed to be added. Here, They said -8 plus -4. And they said that was -4. No, -8 plus -4 is -12. Okay. -12 ends up in the denominator. And then lastly, part E, E and F. F is the incorrect one. Why? Because the exponents with the Y were not added correctly. Okay. The X's were fine. 5 plus 8 is 13. But I have -2 and -5. Well, again, guys, if we put these the other way around, I end up with a y to the third on top. Okay. Same with these two. Okay, the first one is incorrect. Why? Because the power to the power rule with our x is wrong. 3 times -3 is not -6. It would be -9. Down here for J and K, the first thing that they do is correct on both sides, but how they go from this answer to this answer is what's wrong in the second half. The second step, they multiplied the exponents instead of adding them. It should have been 6 plus 7, not 6 times 7. Okay. Number 10, I'm going to go ahead and do with you guys. So we've got 3 different problems here, and they want to know which one of these does it equal. So what I did here was I went through and I already simplified these down. So I've got this first set in red, the second set in green, the third set in pink to show you what each of them equaled. X over x to the third over x to the 12th, y to the 10th over x to the third, and 1 over x to the 8th, y to the 5th. So what we need to do now is go through and see which one of these are equivalent to those. Okay, so I'm going to start with this first problem here. The very first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to move that x to the 5th to the bottom. Okay, and just to simplify things, I've got x squared, count up the y's, there's 10 of them, over x to the 5th. Now simplifying top to bottom. Where are my x's bigger? My x's are bigger on the bottom by 3, and my y's are already simplified. So this would go with my green answer. Okay, so we're gonna, instead of putting the equivalent expression, I'm just gonna put the equivalent answer, and my color is going to show which one it went with. Okay, my second problem here. First thing I know, guys, is that this is going to go to the bottom. So right away, I know that I've got a 1 on top. I've got an x to the third, y to the third, x to the 5th, y squared. Well, if I just combine these answers, 1 over, count up my x's, 3 plus 5 is 8, 3 plus 2 is 5, and that matches my pink answer here. So my answer is going to be 1 over x to the 8th, y to the 5th. And lastly, we could probably figure this out, but we're going to go ahead and work this problem out. I'm going to start by getting rid of my negative exponents, y to the 5th on the bottom, x to the -1 on top, and I'm going to clean it up. On top, I'm left with x to the 5th. On the bottom, I'm left with y to the 12th. Okay, and this should be a 5 here. I apologize. Okay, and so with that, I end up with my answer of x to the 5th over y to the 12th. And then number 12 is a reinforced question, as well as 12 and 13. Have a good day. Bye.